today's daf is daf Kufches. Actually, it's a daf of Wednesday daf Kuf Yud Ches, but we're up to the mission of Kuf Yud Zayin and base towards the bottom. We're continuing to talk about a ganef, what the keep and so on. The Mishnah shot for nor. If let's say the guy stole a property and then there was a flood or something, or the river breaches banks, he could turn around to the guy and say to him, what's the difference if I had to feel, you had to feel karka is not stolen, and therefore it's nothing would have made a difference, so why would I have to pay? Says the Gemara, learned how goes if you steal a field from your friend shot for nor and it was over and the river breaches the banks. Holds, yes, you could steal property and therefore you are responsible. You can say no, cannot be stolen, and therefore it's what's it's one thing if I would have damaged it. Here was something outside of our of my exactly. Same thing would have happened. Exactly. My committee, what's the argument? The argument is as follows. An argument we had in Meruba, we have in many places. Rabbi Lezer says we darshan ribuy umiyat. When you darshan ribuy umiyat, you have a generic term and a specific and a generic. You darshan, you include everything except that which is the remotest or the furthest away. If you use the pattern of klal or prat or klal, then we are only marbe ke'ein haprat. So therefore, the question is whether karka can be stolen or not. So when it talks in the pasuk about somebody who denies that he ever stole it, so he says in the pasuk as follows. He denied to his friend that he ever took it. Now, what did he deny? Everything. So therefore, that's already something which is a generic term. Is ribuy. The pikodin, something that can be sort of moved around, is a miyut, is already narrowing it down. And then it says in the pasuk, kol asher yishba alav l'shaka, anything that he swore false, anything, which again is all inclusive, is chazav ribuy. So what do you do when you have a ribuy umiyat and a ribuy? Riba hakel, you include everything and you only exclude that which is the furthest thing away from pekodin. My rabbi komili, you include everything. My miyut shtaris. The only thing we exclude is a star. Why a star? Because it has no inherent value. Everything else, tarka has inherent value, avodim have inherent value, but star, as we learned before, garmi, all it is something that represents value. It itself has no value. The Rabban, however, use a pattern of, so therefore he holds karka can be stolen. You're responsible again. Who cares if it's an inus? Once you take over, it's your responsibility. The Rabban doesn't call it the quality. They say the kichich is a cloud. The pikodin is a prat. Klal u prat u klal. Yeah. What do we know the prat? Dover hamid taltul, something which is mobile or portable, the gufay moment and inherent value. So now we're excluding a few more things. I've called on taltul with moment. Yotzu, we're excluding karkois. Karkois is not portable. She'ain metaltul, it cannot be moved around. Yotzu avodim shehukzu karkois. Once you establish that karka is not included, cannot be stolen. Same thing applies to avodim. And yotzu status. And here we agree. You also exclude contracts. Alpha patient metaltin ain't gufay moment, has no inherent value. Says the Gemara, the Tanya, this that we learned. So let me ask the question we learned. If somebody steals a parrot, so we have an argument. It says if somebody steals a parrot, and was shot for nor and was over the river breached his banks, you have to buy him a new parrot, obviously. Even though the parrot might be dead now, you can say, here it is. What's going on here? There's nothing to do with karka here, and yet the same argument. Hassan Mike was the argument. So we're going to try to link parrot to a case of karka. How? Because remember, we learned that if you coin a karka and metalton, you make a kinyan on the karka, you coin metalton. So what happened was, you stole the property, and there was a potter sitting on the property. So if you considered a ganav for the property, you also became a ganav for the potter. You didn't take the potter, you didn't touch the potter. But since the karka became yours, the potter became yours. That's Rabbi Lezer.
It's not secure.
Maybe there's a fence around it. Or you're standing there, and good question, yeah. And the Chacham says this karka cannot be stolen. It's not my karka, so what have to do with the potter? We shot from that. Each one is consistent with their opinion. Next Mishnah. Somebody Reuben still from Shimon. Let's say somebody stole from his friend, or he borrowed from him, or he got it cut from him. Don't give it back to him when out he's in the middle of nowhere and it's not safe. And you say, oh, you know the money you lent me, here, take your money back. Or the pekadon, You take it back. You can't do that. But the midbar, but I feel sorry. But Almanas lots of midbar. You Chatchila made up and said, you know what, I'm going to pay you out there when you're traveling. Then Yachzil midbar, which is so obvious. The Gemara is going to ask. So the Gemara, yeah, it says Malva. It says by that alone, the middle of Mishtalim the Chomok. It says clearly you can pay it anywhere. If I have the money, I can pay anywhere. Our Mishnah says that you have to pay him only when he's at home and in a safe place, not when he's traveling. And the guy says, "I don't want the money." Obviously, if he takes the money, no problem, because I don't want the money. And the bars are not. I have the money right now. I want to give it to you. And the Malva says, "I don't want the money because it's not safe here." So, but yet the Brisa says you can pay any way you want. Aveido Pikodin Amishtal Mekayim. Aveido Pikodin you can only pay when he's at home. But clearly by a loan you can pay him anywhere, and the Mishnah says he can't. But Abaye says you misunderstood. This is what it means here. Not that the leiva can pay anywhere. The malva can request the leiva to pay. If it came the due date, even if they're not home, he can say to him, pay me. But not by Pekadon. Why? Because at Pekadon, where would the shamer be keeping it? In his home, and he's now traveling. What do you want from him? Doesn't have it with him, so you can't ask him for it. But when it comes to money, it doesn't matter. I gave you the money was you spent. I don't care what happened to that money. Wherever you are, you owe me that. There's a chiv on you to give me my money. So therefore, the malva has a right to ask him for it. So the rice is not talking about the labor wanting to pay. He's talking about the malva has a right to came to do that to ask him, even though the guy is not at home. Milvin, it will have a welcome that he can ask forever. You cannot ask for the lost object or the pekadon only if the guy is at home. I'm not going to admit, but if you made a condition, you made up before. Pshita, if you made it up, you made up. Like the guy said, he's talking about a case where he didn't actually make it up properly. It's only an inference. How? The guy said, do me a favor, can you mind for this for me? If I'm traveling and abroad, I want you to take care of this. The shamer said to him, okay, but I want you to know I'm also traveling abroad. I might be traveling abroad. You also have to go abroad. But he didn't clearly say to him, if I'm going, if I end up going, I'm going to take it with me and give it to you. He didn't say those words. He just notified him that I might be traveling as well. So it's not a clear tonight. And that's good enough. It's tantamount to him making it tonight, and it's good enough as if he said, if I would have been there, I would have given it to you. Mishnah. If you remember in Ksubas that we had a machlek, if somebody says, body, Reuben says, Shimon, you owe me $100. And Shimon says, I don't know. That's called a body in a Shema. So one opinion says, body v'shema, body adif, and you have to pay the money. The other opinion says, body v'shema, body lav adif. And why? Because you have a cheskas mammon. And a cheskas mammon that says that what? That probably you don't owe the money. Or it's a halacha that you have, the money is by you. For me to take the money out from you, I have to bring proof. It's not just good enough to say, definitely owe me money. A body doesn't work in that case. What happened now? Then we have another thing in Hashoyel and Bamsi and other places. There's a difference if you say any yedeya im paraitiv, any yedeya im hilvesiv. I said, I don't know if you ever lend me the money. Then the din is the opinion that says body sheva, body lavadiv, you don't have to pay. But if the guy says, yes, I know you lent me the money, but I can't remember. I might have paid you. Then everyone agrees. So the chazak is about you owe the money. So if you paid, then you have to pay the money. Any yedeya im mechzartiv, then you have to pay the money. Okay. Rashi here is mechadish that we having more shvuas. The whole idea of a shvuas hesses. Shvuas hesses is that even though a kaifer hakam, we learned before by Moed Mixes, that a kaifer hakam, the guy denies he ever owed the money, he's potter. But Amnach came along and said you should still swear that you don't owe the money. Because shvuas hesses. Shvuas that you convince us that whatever you're saying is correct. So Rashi is mechadish that even though we say body v'shem, I say you owe me $100, and you say you don't remember ever borrowing the money. So we pass him that you don't have to pay because you need for a cheskas mummy you have to better proof, but you have to swear that you don't remember. You have to swear that ain't a yedeya. You taste agrees with Rashi, others disagree, but Rashi's chiddush in this Gemara right here. So now we're going to learn a Mishnah. We're going to see whether this Mishnah has any bearing in that argument. It says the Mishnah, the guy says, because I stole from you, you lent me money, you've got it, so you gave me something to mine. But ain't a yedeya, I can't remember if I give it back to you. Then of course, chayiv l'shalom. If you don't remember, if you definitely had a chiyuv, the question is whether you discharge that liability. Chayiv. I don't know if I ever stole from you. If you let me, now there's two possible ways of learning the Mishnah. One way of learning the Mishnah is that the other guy came and made a claim. The other guy saying body. You stole from me this and that. And the guy says, I don't remember. I don't remember if I gave back to you or I don't remember if I ever stole. That's one way of learning the Mishnah. So then it has direct bearing on what I just told you, this machlekes. Or our Mishnah talking about nobody ever asked anything. He volunteered and came forward and said, I think I stole from you something. You don't know about it. I don't remember if I gave it back to you or not. So, or if I stole something from you, and I don't know, I could be I stole something from you, or could be you lent me money. I don't remember, but nobody asked him for anything, which is then a totally different case than the machlekes we had between Rabbi Yehuda and Yechon and all that. So let's see the Gemara, and that's depending how we learn the Mishnah. We see has a bearing on this argument or not. Each one we learned. The guy said, "Yomi $100." Well, I mean, I don't know. Rabbi Yehuda, but Rabbi Yehuda Amri Chai. They say Chai body b'shema body yodim, and Rabbi Nachman and Rabbi Yechon Amri Potter. Rabbi Nachman and Yechon say that you are Potter. The reason why they say chayiv is because you should know. It's saying you don't know is a cop out. It doesn't have any. It doesn't reflect on your credibility because you just don't remember. Nobody's gonna say, "Oh, you're a ganif." It's different than if a guy denies it turns out to be. So therefore, it doesn't hurt to say you don't remember. And therefore, they say, and the other guy said, "Definitely you owe me the money." We'll trust the bari. Mashen Kane. I'm not going to say that the chesed mammon. What shvur? No shvur. No, sure. The shua's hesed is only once you say that you are potter, the opinion that says that you are potter, because the chesed moment, swear that you don't remember. Rabbi Yehuda will chayiv, but nobody other. Rabbi Yehuda will keep in mind the chesed, leave in mind the way it is. Because I tell you last time, the big chakira, chesed moment, is that a logical thing? Because it proves to us that the guy Taka doesn't owe any money because it's sitting by him, or it's just a halacha that we don't know. There's a custom that leave things where they are. So therefore, any logic, any logic is not enough to take it out of the chazakah. But if it's a if it's a question of logic, then we have a better logic to say that in this case maybe Taka owes the money because other guys say you definitely owe me the money, and he says I don't remember. Then the cheskes mammon maybe is not strong enough logic against the body versus the shema, and so on and so forth. And yeah, let's go back to our Mishnah. Now, Mishnah I don't know if you have the money. Potter. Hey, what's that case our Mishnah talking about? He said, I don't know if you lent me the money. And it's I don't know if you lent me, it says you are pot. If at the end he says, what do you call it? At the end he says that I don't remember if I stole from you, I don't remember if you borrowed from me. Sounds like nobody asked him for it. So if the end of the Mishnah is talking about nobody asked him for it, then the Reish not be like Katabla. Beginning of the Mishnah also nobody asked him for it. And what is it in the beginning of the Mishnah? I owe you money, but it could be I paid you back. And it says here that you're chayiv. And the way we're learning now is that the guy is demanding, hey, I lent you $100, and he says, yeah, but I don't remember if I paid you back or not. And yet Mishnah is chayiv. He's not a clear raya that body Mishnah body audit. Sorry. Sorry, I skipped one. If the learning tried the Mishnah, nobody asked for it, and he says to him, look, could be you lent me the money, and I don't remember if I paid you back. Why is the Mishnah saying chayiv? Nobody asked him for the money. Nobody's saying that. He's saying that I borrowed money, but I think I paid you back. Or why should he pay? Nobody's asking for it, even though he's saying I borrowed money from you, but I don't remember. Since no one's asking for it, until someone can prove that he at least a body. Even the opinion that says that in the case where you say you don't know if you returned. If I ever, what do you call it? Even according to the logic that says, if I don't know if I return to you, you're definitely chayiv because you have a cheskes chiv. There's no cheskes chiv here. Because what creates the cheskes chiv and somebody else comes along and says, you owe me money? But that guy has no recollection, obviously. Otherwise, what are we talking about here? But don't say that. He doesn't agree because he doesn't remember. One way or another. So the guy came forward and says, look, I borrowed $100 from you, and could very well be I paid you back. And Mishnah says, why you chayiv? Why, if nobody asks you for the money, okay, so go work it out, whether you owe him the money or not, for bringing a rise, something. We'll let the other guy say, oh, I triggered a memory. And my chayiv, El must be talking about, Pashtus is talking about the Ketabale, that he's asking for the money, and he says, yeah, I know I borrow, I can't remember if I paid you back. Uktani Sefer, yet so there's demanding, and yet the Sefer says, the guy says, you owe me $100, I don't remember if I ever borrowed. It's a case of body v'shema, and the Mishnah clearly says you are potter. Potter mishalom. Is that right? To Rab Nachman Rab Yechon that you're potter? We're like, no. Nobody asked him for money, so why the Reish is chayiv? Like you were, but Reish bebol lotzei Reish mind. Why don't you do the right thing? He said, I remember I borrowed $100. The other guy has no memory of it. I remember I borrowed $100. I can't remember I paid you back. So I'll pay how no court of law is going to make you pay. But if you want to do tshuva, if you want to do lots of shemaim, pay. Pay. But in the sefer, where you say, I lent you $100, I say, I don't remember ever borrowing money from you. There's no Indian lots of shemaim because you say that you don't remember ever borrowing money. So why should you have to pay? In the first case, you say, I borrowed the money, but you're the only one who remembers. I borrowed the money and I can't remember I paid you back. So for your own conscience, lots of shemaim, you should pay him back. But in the sefer where the guy says, I let you money, you say, I don't remember at all borrowing money. There's no lots of shemaim when you yourself are not sure if you ever owe the money. And there's no chazaka, there's no nothing here. Yeah, but there's no such thing. Bar is only. Yeah, but
so I should pay you back because I know for certain.
But there's no such. That's why Bava says Shemaim. In a court of law, it's garnished. You're right. You want to do tshuva, you want to do the right thing, pay back, like you just said. But that's only internally. That's Bava. So that's called Bava says Shemaim. Even now, he's there. Or no Chayi, but Bava says Shemaim. You want to do Yatsa Shemaim, then you go ahead and you pay. Telling about a Mishnah, if I stole a sheep, somebody, Reuven stole a sheep from a flock, and then he brought it back. The mace, he brought it back clandestinely, whatever he didn't tell the guy. The mace, and then the animal died. The stolen animal died, but where did it die? In the premises of the original owner. But you returned it. The question is that called a return, a hashava? You steal something and then you return it without letting the person know. Is that considered a return or not? Since he didn't notify him that he gave it back, you were still responsible for the animal until you notify him. So the first case in the Mishnah talking about where the Balabas knew that it was stolen, but you didn't tell him you gave it back. Lo yodu bailim. What about the owner never knew in the first place it was stolen? You stole it, and then you felt guilty and you decided to bring it back. You stole without the guy's knowledge. You brought it back with the guy's knowledge. But one thing happened. Now and the din is in that case you are part. But the Mishnah says, if the guy counted his sheep, the owner counted the sheep, and he sees that he has a full count, then you are potter. Now, big argument. There's 4 ways of learning Pshat in the Mishnah. This last clause, he counted the sheep and everything is good. That you are potter. Who is that on the case of the ratio where he knew it was stolen and you brought it back in the middle of the night and he counted the sheep and that's good enough because he counted the sheep, he now knows that he has it because he knew it was stolen? Or is it talking about the sefer that he did not know it was stolen at all, but he counted the sheep and he has his full stock there, therefore it's as if he never stole it? Which case is it? And then according to each one, if you learn the ratio, what would it then be in the sefer and vice versa? So says the Gemara. 4 opinions in the Gemara here. Amazing how you can get 4 opinions of this little mission there. Starting with Rav. Rav says, Lidas, if he knew that it was stolen, tzarich das, then you have to tell him that you get it back. In order to be considered you returned it, he has to be aware that you gave it back to him. If you stole it without the owner realizing it was stolen in the first place, then minyan poited. When the Mishnah, so you read the Mishnah straight, that the last line of the Mishnah where it says if he counted the sheep, it's all right. It's talking about the last case, which is shalai ladas. The guy had no idea. The guy didn't know. The guy didn't know that you stole it, and you returned it. As long as he counts the sheep, and as far as he knows, everything is there. It's as if you gave it back, as if you told him. The Chiktani, when the Mishnah says "Amana," it's you read the Mishnah the way it's written. So Rav, in the reading of the Mishnah, is the best shot. Come along, Shmuel says no. Shmuel says I disagree with Rav. Bein ledas. This last line of the Mishnah is referring to the entire Mishnah. Even if he knew that it was stolen, and you didn't tell him, and you brought it back in the middle of the night. But if he counted the sheep and now he has shleim, it's full. Minyan poiter. So then v'chitani, when the Mishnah says umonu v'hishleima poiter akula. That last clause in the Mishnah, that if he counted, it refers to both cases in the Mishnah, whether he was aware that it was stolen, whether he was unaware it was stolen. You returned it without telling him. Both cases, you returned without telling him. As long as he counts the sheep and now it's full count, it's as if you made him aware that you gave it back. I won't say you're allowed to say it's considered a tshuva. Even echte v'osher is not very good. Okay, come along, Rabbi Yechon. And he says, no. Rabbi Yechon like this. He said the last line of the mission is actually going on the first part of the mission. He says the following, which is a bit odd why it was written at the end, but this is how he reads it. Lidas, if he was aware that it was stolen, then minion poker, when he counts it and he realizes it's all there, then he knows that you give it back to him. So that's good enough. If he was never aware that it was stolen, then I feel a minion amulet. Then why do you have to count? Yeah, exactly. Since he had no idea it was stolen, and you put it right back where it came from, that's good enough. Finished. That's how good Hashem. That is the view of Rabbi Yechon. He's the easiest. The Chitoni, when the Mishnah says, this is the hardest to learn, that the last line of the Mishnah is only referring to the first part. Because according to Rabbi Yechon, you don't have to tell him. And just put it back. No counting. Rab Chizda is the strictest of all. Chizda this. Lidas, if you made him, sorry, not the, on the Reisha, he's not the strictest. He holds like Rabbi Yechon. Lidas, minion paiter. I hold like Rabbi Yechon. If you knew that it was stolen, you can give it back to him secretly, embarrassed, whatever it is. And then, as long as he counts, it's good enough. Lidas, if he was not aware it was stolen, this is where he's machmir. Even minion doesn't good enough. You need to tell him, I stole it, and here, take it back. Why in the world would you have to do that? So why is Chizah so strict? Omar Rava says Rava. My time of Chizah, what's the logic of Chizah? What happened was when you stole the animal, you taught the animal that it doesn't have to remain with the rest of the flock. So if you don't tell the balabas that you stole it and you put it back without him knowing about it, he won't mind it. He won't put extra care or extra with the animal, and it'll go exactly, just go wander off. So therefore, you need to tell him. Which means this Rab Chizda only argues Rabbi Yechon in the case where it's a living animal. But if you stole, let's say, a watch, which doesn't walk away, then according to Rab Chizda, I agree with Rabbi Yechon. If he didn't know I stole it, I could just put it back without his knowledge. Says the Gemara, so the fact that the Rabbi, by the way, explains Rabbi Chizda the most poskim like Rabbi Chizda. The Rabbi say that. Rabbi said, "Hi man, if you saw somebody, if you saw your friend, I saw my friend steal from my flock a sheep. You day, and I shouted, Vishadya, and he dropped it, and he ran away. I don't really know. I don't know if he returned. Did he run with my sheep or did he leave it there? And I don't know what happened. The mace and the sheep then died on Nignev. Has to pay for it. My love, I forgot the money. So here I knew, right? This is a case of knowledge. And it sounds like even though he counted, obviously he would have counted. If he's worried that he lost the sheep, he would have counted it. And he might have, and then he would know one way or another. What he doesn't know, and he would know that the sheep was put back. And yet it says other guys chayv achrayis. You just said before that if he counted it, you're a potter. You hold like Rabbi Yechon that if he knew that was a gneva and he counted his potter, since he knew it was a gneva and he counted it, and yet you're chayiv until you tell him you brought it back. No delaying money, no kasha. Just talking about he didn't count. He just otherwise. What means he doesn't know if he left it there or not. After you count it, you know exactly what happened. Okay, so therefore, Rabbi holds like Rabbi Chizda. At least by an animal, if he didn't know that was stolen, then you need to tell him because the animal now got into a new habit. Let's go through let's analyze the other one. The Rav say his opinion. Rav is the one who said you read the Mishnah the way it is, and that is Rav says that if he knew it was stolen, you must tell him that it was stolen. If he didn't know it was stolen, then if he counts, it's good enough. Did Rav actually hold that? No, but the last line of the Mishnah follows the Sefer, which is only if he did not know it was stolen, then you don't have to tell him. As long as he counted, it's good enough. Rav said, it says if you put it back at the flock in the midbar, it's good enough. Let's say the balabos has this flock out there and you're wandering about somewhere in the mountaintops. Now the guy had no idea you stole it. And he doesn't count it. It's out in the sun in his barn or something. How can it be? Rav is talking about a case where it was polka dotted, full of all kinds of spots on it, so it stands out. You might have 100 and 200 sheep, but you have one sheep that is full of spots on it. He sees it straight away, so he knows that it wasn't that's there. Interesting how we. And maybe he wouldn't notice it's missing. It's like a das, and then he sees it right there. So it's as if you told him you give it back. Yeah, go both ways. So you don't need counting in this case. It stands out. Let us say that this argument is a machleket tanoim. What's the story? It says, "Again, you stole a sheep or you stole money. Just put it back. Don't have to make any announcements. You're embarrassed. If Kiva says, you put it back. You gotta tell them. Now, what's going on? It's Savruah, Kuli Alma. Everyone holds like a Yitzchak. Now, where does counting come in here? If you remember, we'll learn Elam Metzias very soon. Yitzchak says that Adam Osul and Mashmash Kisei B'chol. Your wallet, your pocket, you're constantly checking and counting. You're constantly counting your money. You have a habit of counting your money. If it's sitting in your safe or something, you don't count. But if it's in your wallet, you count your money. So it's as if you counted. So money in your pocket is like a minion, like you're always counting. So everyone agrees that you're counting your money all the time. So what's going on here? My lab besella ladas. It's talking about a case here where you stole it, because it says he counts his money all the time and you stole a seller. Then obviously he knows about it 5 minutes later. He's constantly counting his money. He knows that it's missing. And what does Rabbi Shmuel say? You can sneak it back in because he'll count it again, and count is good enough. So Rabbi Shmuel holds that counting, even if he knows it was stolen, counting is good enough. That's Shmuel. And Rabbi Kiva says, no, you got to tell him. Like Rav. Rav says if you knew that it was stolen, you have to tell him you brought it back. And Shmuel says that counting is good enough. So the Upluk to that was Shmuel. Says, no. We're talking about that the owner was not aware. But for example, it said Selavitle. We're talking about over here, the owner was not aware that, and they're arguing the machlekes of Chizda and Rabbi Yochanan, and that is, and so Vaitzleh, he does not know it's missing. Does not know it's missing. Rabbi Chizda says that even though he did not know, Rabbi Chizda says you must tell him because the animal wanders about. That's Rabbi Akiva, and Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Yochanan, that if he counts, it's good enough. Or in fact, Rabbi Yochanan, you don't even need to count. Just give it back. Because he never was stolen, and you put it back. Good enough. So that's one way. So therefore, there's no raya one way or another. What they're arguing is something, but we don't know. They're arguing Machlekes Rabbi Shmuel, where it was ladas, with like my money, or they're arguing the case of the main argument by Tleh, which is shaloi ladas, and they're arguing whether you have to minion is good enough or not. I'll give you another way of learning trapping this Machlekes, that is b'shoimer. Now what? Everyone agrees that the animal wanders about. Like Rav Chizda. Everyone agrees with Rav Chizda. That by an animal, you must notify the owner because he wanders about. But here it's talking about in the Shomer's house. And the Shomer decided to steal it, and then he put it right back. So it didn't really go anywhere. Remember, it's in the Shomer's house. If it's in the Balabas's house, he took the sheep out of the house, brought it back to his house to become a ganef, and then he brought it back. So the question is, now the sheep got used to leaving the house. Here was a Shomer, and he decided, you know what, I'm going to steal it. So what did he do with it? He said he didn't take it away from his house. It's still on his premises. He left it premises. His thought was to steal it. And then he said, you know what, I'm not going to steal it. I'm leaving it here. So here the Svara of Chizda maybe doesn't apply because the animal didn't leave anywhere to get used to this. He doesn't know the halachas of... Okay, but no, he took another part of his premises. He took it out of this part and put in this part here. But the point is, he never left his premises. Therefore, there's no Indian of that the animal got used to leaving the premises. It's b'shaym shagon, which is by the kulam pligi. Like this, shagon, which is by the kulam pligi the chizah. But the hach b'shaym shagon, if you took it out, everyone agrees on chizah. If you took it out of the original owners, you got a new habit. You got to put you tell them. Talking about here, the shamer stole it in his own rishus, moved it from one part of his barn, let's say, to another section of his barn. That's all he did. But it's still within his property. So the animal is not going to go wander about anywhere. And that's a machlekes. The machlekes, arguing whether you have to put it right back where you took it from. Rabbi Kiva Rabbi Kiva holds the moment you just moved it to the other section, you're already you're a regular ganef, so therefore you must notify the balabas. And Rabbi Shmuel holds, like since you never really did much with it, you just moved it from one part to another, you're still a shomer. So Gemara said, okay, let's say minyan pointed the idea whether minyan partners or not is a machlekes tanoi, is actually a machlekes tanoi. Tad, you learned how good I stole from my friend and I feel guilty. But I don't want to tell him that I stole from him. So what I did was I went and bought something from him. It cost $10, and I threw in an extra $3 in there, which I stole from him last time. And hopefully he won't, give it back to me. And I did my tshuva. What I said, it's grown up. No, but you didn't tell him. And Tanya says, no, it's not good enough. You have to tell him. So we thought Kuli Alma Eastul Rabbi Yitzchak. Everyone knows Rabbi Yitzchak that the person counts his money, and because it counts, so it's minyan, and that's the machlekes is minyan. You know, if you stole without telling the balabas, you stole without telling the balabas, do you have to notify him or not? So everyone holds like Rabbi Yitzchak Adam also the matchmas kitzchosh. You count all the time. My laba hogmig. In fact, that exactly is the argument. The mandama yotz, the one who says you are yotze sabra minyan paite. The one who says yotze holds that minyan is good enough. Mandama lo yotze minyan paite. Holds counting is not good enough. You got to tell him. Amri. So I said no. We'll give a few different answers. Lav dafka. I can learn other ways that machlek two b'naises. Either east feel like if you only you count it, counting is good enough. But that in itself is a machlekes. Who said a person constantly counts the money in his pocket? He has to lose coins. Let's go to argument. There's an argument whether Bishchak is right or not. Or he and nobody looking at it is Kuliyam. Everyone agrees that Bishchak, a person counts his money. Well, Kashi. But when do you count your money? Only if it's in your pocket. You're scared you might lose it or whatever. But if it's sitting somewhere in the house, you don't count the money all the time. The money, but the one but I was talking about he took the money and he put it in your pocket, so he's constantly that money that you gave him for buying that object, and you threw in an extra few dollars, and he put it in his pocket. Then we know that he counts it. So therefore, as if you gave it back to him. But if you took that money and put it somewhere straight away into somewhere else in a box in the house, then he never counted it. So therefore, there's no minion. So they're not arguing. Two different cases. The money you counted from the kiss and you put it in his pocket. The money he put it in his hand, which then he'll go put it in someone's house. He buys money in his pocket. He has other money in his pocket, so therefore he didn't really count. He has no other money in the pocket. Mishnah. So therefore, if he has no other in the pocket, then he counts it, and that's good enough. It's as if you return it. This Mishnah is talking about whether you can trust they buy anything from certain people because maybe they got nothing, everything they have is a gun. You don't buy anything from a shepherd. Won't mean anything. You don't buy tzemah wool, chol of milk, gediyim, little goats, because probably it's stolen, or good chance it was stolen. People who are security guards to watch somebody's orchard, don't buy from eights and wood because they might have just cut down somebody else's, the property they're minding. In other words, the most dangerous people are your security guards and the people you entrust with your things. They're the ones you have most chayshid that they're ganavim. Or fruits. Now, women, let's say, if they don't work or anything else, everything belongs to the husband, so they don't really have rights to give away the husband free, willingly their products. So only what the husband gives to them. So what can we assume the husband gave to them? Small amounts or certain things, and not other things. So you're allowed to buy from women clay tzemer wool in Yehuda because that's what they're given, or clay pishta begalil or flax in because that's what they do there. So therefore, the husband definitely gave it to them, and they're allowed to sell it. And calves bisharim, and calves and sharim, which is a place, or Rashi's another shot is if they sell it out and open in the market, then obviously they have a right to do it because everyone knows that. We'll find out in 2 seconds. The Kulish Amr Lahatman, any of these people, if they say let's do discreetly this business deal, then also obviously they have something to hide. But like they're going to and you can buy eggs and chickens any way you want because they're so cheap, and therefore nobody. We're not going to everybody will steal. So what we learned? Ain't like in the rain, like easy, not goats, like not the small, not kids, like gizi, nor the hair, like pollution shall semer, and not cut off wool from a sheep. We should cut off a little bit of time. I would like to land food you're allowed to buy once it's sewn up, and then they change shall hand. Definitely, it definitely belongs to them. Why? Because even if they stole it, there's a shini mice here, and therefore it's theirs. We're like allowed to buy milk, and cheese, but midbar out in the midbar because they're the owners. The owners don't really are not going to go out and milk the animals out in the middle of the thing there, so they don't really care. But not in the city because the owner wants his milk and these guys are perhaps stolen. So you're allowed to buy 4 or 5 sheep. Gives 4 or 5 a big amount you're allowed to take for them. Because then this guy will be scared to steal because he knows the owner will recognize in a minute what happened to all that. But a little bit he'll steal, not a lot. Otherwise he'll lose his job. Not too small, and then he thinks he can get away with it. Rabbi says it depends. Says if it's a domestic animal, like chimahen, you could buy. We're not sure which case he's arguing on, the 4 or 5 or 2. Like he's allowed to buy domestic animal because the owner sees it all the time and he'll know straight away if it's all that. But he is ain't like out in the wilderness. You don't buy because he thinks he can get away with a lot more. A kosher of the rule is kosher. Anything that the Raya sells or Balabai's market by the owner can send straight away with stolen loichem he can buy because he wouldn't dare steal it. A market by ain't you don't buy. Marbi learned loichem and dal the you buy from him 4 or 5 sheep. Dal the gizin has to yeshlaim abos. If you're allowed to buy 4, chamishim boy, what do you tell me 5? If you're allowed to steal, you're allowed to buy 4 for him because so much. Of course you're allowed to buy 5. If all he has is 5 sheep and he's selling you the hair and the wool from 4 of them, then you know the Balbas will recognize it. That's what he means here. Or he could have cotton. If it's a small flock, then 4, and the chamin got it. If it's a big flock, then 5. That's when it becomes noticeable. You say dollar the hay 4 or 5, so dollar the hay gizin 4 or 5 sheep, 4 or 5 gizin strips. That means only 4 or 5, but not 3 and 4. Aim say if I look at the end, that means that you can only buy 4 or 5 sheep. 3 you can't. Another place said, but two you could buy, which means 3 you can't. What's going on here? Hashalish as a vinyan. The Mishnah says don't buy 2, which sounds like 3 you could. What's going on here? Like kasha. It depends. If it's healthy animals, then the Balabas is constantly minding them, then 3 you can't get away with 3. And if it's weak animals, then you could get away with 3, because it doesn't really look at them. Okay, we'll stop here.